Hey there, and welcome to another edition of Learning How to Shade by Kipsworld here. Hopefully I had to start over on my Wonder Woman. I messed it up. I screwed up the hand. So I have another version of Wonder Woman that this is a print of my original. Here it's of Sarah Underwood, and I did a sort of a smaller sketch of it on paper, and I will be handing this copies of this out. I made a scan of it and lightened it a little bit so it won't be so dark, but you can still see some stuff, and I'll be handing that out at Umicon this weekend during my shading demo. So tonight I thought would be interesting to see. Let's try shading with some colors this time rather than just black and whites. So I went and sorted all my Copic markers, and I got some reds. So we're going to start out with the boots, and then we'll maybe move on to her torso. Like here's what we got right here. I may actually make her legs, instead of making them bare, we might actually just go with blue, just because, you know, we could add some, we can learn how to shade in some blues and stuff there. So anyways, you won't be able to see what I'm shading from because it's just my cell phone mounted as this strange contraption I built. But we're gonna go ahead and get started on this, and I'll kind of explain a little bit of how I'm doing going along. So one of the first things that we have to be careful of is when we're shading with color is if you color over a pencil line, you sometimes can't erase it. And if it's a very light color, you'll see that pencil line through it. So we kind of have to erase a little bit as we go along, and then there's always, you got to be kind of careful when you're doing that, because you don't want to smear your ink, because they do smear. Anyway, so if you could remember from the picture there, in fact, actually that's wrong. I just realized that shouldn't, I wasn't paying attention. That shouldn't have been there. Anyways, so there is this white stripe, and then the rest of this is red. So we're going to go ahead and we'll start on the one on the left, and we'll work to the one on the right. We'll see how far we get. I'm going to try to keep this video short. Right now we're already at 2 minutes, so I might just cut it short a little bit, then we'll go on to the next bit, and you'll see that maybe tomorrow. So anyways, one of the things you got to be careful of is with inks, you have to start out lighter and go darker. You can never go lighter. So one of the things I have discovered is try to get 3 different shades. Get like an off, like if it's red, get like a pink that's not super bright, like not Hello Kitty pink, but like a pink that's kind of like a lightish red. And then get your main color, and then get a darker version of that color, and that gives you sort of 3 shades to go with. And then you can always hit it with some white ink or something to highlight, to do a little couple like glares or something. So there's a couple spots in this picture here, and again you can't see the picture, but I'm gonna go ahead and here's the thing with ink is Copics do bleed, and I've messed up a couple things. So I'm going to show you what I did. I took this off. I store my Copics this way. A lot of artists store them vertically, store them flat, because what will happen is the ink will well and it'll come out. Take it off, kind of look at it, test it, make sure it's not going everywhere. If it is, just kind of let it set. And I say that because I've messed stuff up, and this is what Copic told me to do. I emailed them and they said let them set for a little, maybe a minute, if they look like they're welling up in the tips. So there are some, can we see that? Where am I getting? Okay, I'm getting some nasty ass shadows there. Okay. So anyways, so we're gonna hit a little bit of light there, a little bit of there. That's a darker shade there. You can't see that. I'll try and post a picture of this up so when you're following the video you can kind of see what I was going from. Most of the stuff on the boot is either red or it's dark red. So on this one there's not going to be a whole lot of pink, and where it's pink is where it's going to be basically brighter. The thing is if I do this in pink and I'm wrong, I can make it darker. If I do it in red and I wanted it lighter, again, you can't make things lighter. So I'm looking at this, and I think that's probably right now about the only highlight spots there are. So I was using, if you're curious, that was an RV34. and it was the blending tip. And now I'm going to use, what was it called? It was called dark pink, actually. And I'm using what's called lipstick red. It's my favorite red. It's an R29 Copic. And so now we're going to get in here. Let's see if you can see that. There we go. And when I get a little bit more of this done, I'll try to zoom the camera in without bouncing it too much there. And there's a bit of a highlight on one spot there. But what we'll do is, if it's just a little white kind of a glare from like you'll see when you look at the picture. You can usually hit that up with, like I said, a small white ink marker or something. It's dark there. Now that light spot there that you see, you can see it right there, it actually is dark, but I'm going to go ahead and not put any ink there, just cause. Same with that spot right there. One thing you have to be real careful of with the blending tip is they do like to blend, and that means that there is a lot of ink in this tip. So if you're not careful, it can, like I said, it'll easily run out on you. Sometimes a little too easily. But what I do like about them is they have a very nice point. So if you're careful, really careful. Okay, and this, I can already see how I didn't quite get the sketch as accurate as I could have. I'm pushing a little bit of a cat hair right there across the page. Problem as an artist with cats, you end up with cat hair everywhere on your work. Now right now what you can see is I'm just going along and filling in the colors. And what we're going to do later, after we get all the reds in where we want all the reds, is I'm going to go back and I'm going to blend some areas. It might be a little harder to see. So I might zoom in for that little part right there. But what we do is when you're trying to blend colors, for the most part, 99% of the time, I do not use the Copic blend tool. Because what it ends up doing is it ends up spreading, because it's alcohol based, and all it is an alcohol marker. That's all it is. So, to begin with, I wouldn't buy one. They're sort of a waste of money. There are times when you need it. Usually the only times I've ever needed it is when I'm blending flesh, because flesh is very complicated. But what you do is you get your two colors, or your three colors, or however many colors you're doing, and then you use the lighter color of the two to blend the two colors together. And I'll sort of show you how that goes here in a little bit. And it's going to be a little harder to see on her boot because they're so tight together, but we'll see if we can't figure something out here where you can, like I said, I'll zoom the phone in here a little bit. Okay, so that's going up. And I'm leaving these spots spots here because, like I said, it's, if I go over them, it may be a little hard to see because the red is actually kind of dark. So I'm not going to really, on the boots, I'm not going to worry about erasing these lines on the red. This line right here where the white is, I'm going to have to erase that. If I go over that with some gray, that line will be there. And in the actual, in the painting or in the photo that I did this from, there's not a line. It's just that's where it changed shade. Okay, so now I went back to this guy. This is again my RB34. Let's see if we can zoom in a little bit there. Okay, did it zoom? It zoomed a little too much. Let's pull that back out there. Don't want it to be blurry. Okay, I think that's okay. It's not too blurry. I'm going to move the picture up there. Okay. So then we go back in with the lighter color and we go around the borders. And your lighter color won't ever get any darker than this because that's the color it is. Well, I said, and that's not exactly true. As you blend the other color around the edges, that's where you're going to see it bring in some of this color here. It'll start blending the two together. And depending on how you need to do that, you can do it like in little circles. You can go back and forth, and I'll talk about that a little bit more later. Probably at Yumicon, it's a little hard to see the things that I'm trying to do here, but you can kind of see there's some blending there. And don't assume that you're going to get it right the first time. And what I mean by right, you might blend it, and then you've got to let it kind of sit for a little bit, because the ink literally is running through the pores of the paper. And then you're going to say, oh, it changed, and you got to come back and do it a little bit again. So just because it doesn't look right away, don't ever try to do it all at once. It's just a little bit and a little bit more and a little bit more, and eventually you'll get all of it. Same thing like I talked about with the black and white. When you're shading and you're trying to make it dark, less is more. You can always make it darker later, but if you put too much ink down the first time, you're done. So we might try doing Yuma, depending on how big this ends up being, because this actually is a little, I won't say it's difficult, it's not demonstrating the blending very well, so we may end up doing a different, maybe just like a boot or of something of Wonder Woman. So we're going to go back and blend that a little bit more again. But you'll get the idea. We'll have fun. It doesn't really matter. Okay, I'm going to come in there, around there. Okay, so see, we kind of blended that kind of nice there. Alright, now we're going to go to the dark red. And then when we do the dark red, we'll go back and blend that with the normal red. Okay, so okay, hopefully this one looks a little dangerous. Okay, we'll just gotta watch this here. I have had issues where it went everywhere, and I've ruined a couple pieces of art that way. And to say I was upset was an understatement. I had a small temper tantrum once when I ruined a piece of art because I was almost done, and I was doing some stuff on the girl's face, and the Copic, touching up the lips, and the Copic put a giant quarter-sized blob of red ink everywhere. And 20 hours of work down the drain. Because that was something I could not figure out how to recover from. That's when I ended up I emailed Copic. And they're actually very responsive. They said, well, have you been flying lately? I had. So if you've been flying, the pressure can get into the ink, into the ink well and cause some pressure differentials and cause some problems. They said,